Yeah. Is it going? Oh, how long's it been going? I've been picking my nose the entire time. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Well, welcome everyone to my seminar. I'm super nervous. I got my little note card, so sorry if I look down a lot. But my name's Coach Michelle Calderwood. I've been doing CrossFit since 2017. I think we said 5 years, right? So I really like it. I've been sticking with it for a while. Hasn't killed me yet. Some of my favorite movements are like I love snatches, so Olympic movements. I love snatching. I like burpees. I like box jump overs. My favorite machine's gonna be the biker. Stoked about that. And I absolutely hate overhead squats, thrusters. Like there's a complete difference for me. I know. I'm a hypocrite. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. And I know I give you guys grief about the Echo bike, but I too hate it a lot. Okay. You can ask Dave. I literally refused to ever get on the Echo bike for years. I literally would not do it because I had other options. We had the assault bike and bike erg, and I would never do the Echo bike. And finally I got on and I just made myself do it and I got better. So I'm doing the same with you guys, giving you no choice now. I coach the 5:15 a.m. So we get up. Yeah, way to represent. So it's a lot of fun. My athletes see me literally like straight out of bed and like hair greasy everywhere, like baggy, gross clothes. No, they're amazing, and it's awesome to see people motivated enough to go at 5:15 in the morning. But I really like CrossFit because you're constantly having to work on something. I am a super competitive person, as some might know, and I'm super picky as well. Feel bad for my athletes, but it's for your own good. I'm all about getting better about these movements. That's why I really wanted to chime in on the standards and judging clinic. I'm all about making sure that our reps are clean and that we're staying healthy with that. CrossFit is the whole point of it is to be able to be 60 years old and be able to still pick something up off the ground or get out of bed or get off the toilet. Because sometimes, I mean, it's pretty bad. Josh works, he's a PTA, and he works with elderly people that literally cannot do essential things like that, like everyday life. And the whole point of this, the functional movements that we do, is to be able to get older and still be able to move fluidly. So that's kind of the whole point of CrossFit here. So we're going to go ahead and start with talking a little bit about biomechanics. Josh is going to chime in here and there because this is literally his job. So help answer questions. Don't be surprised if he starts talking there. But a little bit of anatomy and physiology here. This is our spine. We got a natural curve going on here. We've got our hip, we've got femur and tibia. Okay, so we have 3 joints as well that we're going to focus on. It's going to be the sacroiliac joint. I'm going to call it the SI joint, so I don't have to say that every time. Then we got the hip and knee joint. And then our spine and pelvis make up the trunk and or our core, and our legs are going to be the femur and tibia. This is a neutral position, so whenever you hear that, that's what I mean. It's us standing, which is our legs extended, which terminology flexion is going to be decreasing the angle of the joint. So if I am standing here and I'm bending forward like I would be doing like a good morning, my hip is flexed, and then if I'm going back like this, my trunk is extended. Okay, so that's kind of what I mean there. So neutral position is going to be our legs extended as well as our trunk. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump into it. We're going to go over some basic movements and then what standards they have, I guess. Okay, Josh will go ahead and come out here. We're going to start with the air squat. Okay, I do want us to focus on the air squat a lot this is going to be, we're going to go over 3 squats today, and this is going to be the basis for the squats that we're going to go over, as well as really any lift that we do. We've got it literally in the name. We got a back squat, front squat, overhead squat. We got squat cleans, squat snatches, thrusters. Everything we do is going to be squatting basically here in CrossFit. So this is super important. If we can't do an air squat, technically we should not be doing anything until we can perfect that, especially any like weight movements. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start here. He'll show us a good example as I'm explaining. So our feet are going to be shoulder width apart with our toes slightly at an angle is what we want. So he's going to go ahead and start by sending the butt back and down. Our arms and eyes are forward and up almost. And then he's past 90 degrees here. The weight, his body weight is in his heels. And then his knees are slightly over his toes. They're tracking over his toes. And I'll go ahead and finish the rep by coming up and fully extending his hips here. Okay, that's where the rep finishes. So I'll go ahead and turn around and show another. Awesome. Give me that chest and eyes forward. Perfect. Okay, so some faults that we have here. One of the number 1 faults is going to be not reaching full depth. So go ahead and give us some examples of that. Awesome. Okay, thanks. It's hard, yeah. Where did I put my wall ball? Yeah, absolutely. Right. And you're saying on this it is supposed to go past our toes just a little? Is that just for the depth? Yeah.
I don't want it to be like an excessive past your toes, right? So if I'm squatting it all the way out here,
yeah,
your knees are meant to bend. And so yeah, there's some truth to that, but in everyday life, you're going to be squatting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go over that. Good question. Because I always thought that as well. And it's a natural bend over the toe, and it's very slight if you look at it. Yeah, it's not super exaggerated. Great question. So for reaching full depth here, I'm going to go ahead and put a target. So a wall ball is a great target. I would not recommend using, like a box, because sometimes that's just parallel or 90 degrees, and we need to reach below 90 degrees, okay? So he's going to go ahead and give us some reps here on both sides while I explain. He's going down, he taps the wall ball with his bum, and then he comes back up into full extension. He'll show the other side here too. Just notice how it's a very slight touch. We're not sitting on the wall ball. As if we do, he'll show us what we do here. We're losing all tension in our trunk, okay? So make sure to keep that in mind, all right? So it looks good. So that's a correction for that fault. We're having issues with that. The next fault that we have is knees rolling in. So it kind of looks like this. You guys may have seen it. Looks very uncomfortable. Okay. So this can be a mobility issue with our ankles, which is something that we will have to work on outside of class. Stretching would be a thing, and also strength could be an issue that's making this happen. So ways to correct this would be by spreading the floor with your feet, okay? So we've got our feet here, and he's keeping the weight of his body in his heels, and as he's going down, we're thinking knees out, knees out, knees out. Keep our feet on the ground and pressing out. Perfect. Also having a little cue here as he's going down. Okay, let's touch here. Perfect. Awesome. Oh, you went like past that. Awesome. Cool. So just having a little someone there to help show, okay, let's touch our target here. That will show that you're going to be moving our knees out.
Another thing on that. And that's why we do the hip halo squats and we do those monster walks forward backward with that. It's cueing the hips to help the knees extend or go out laterally. So we keep back to Catherine's question earlier, where our knees, we're not saying our knees have to go super far up over our toes, but we want our knees to track over the toes, right? So we're following our feet. That's the problem with this. My knees are no longer tracking my feet. So keeping my knees out, I'm at the same angle wherever my feet are, my knees want to follow.
Okay. Right, thank you. Okay, awesome. Then another fault that we have is called the muted hip. So it's, excuse me, what it is whenever our knees come out first and our pelvis is chasing our femur. So go ahead and show them an example of that. Okay, notice how it just kind of makes me cringe. It just falls apart, yeah. So you come up off your heels, you're on your toes, you're trying to compensate for that weight coming forward by your feet coming up, and then also you want to curve your back. For me, I just fall forward. I'm just like, I don't know what to do here, okay? So ways to help this out is going to be making sure that you are sending your butt back and down, keeping your chest tall, and then your weight in your heels. So kind of we went over again. It's just a lot of this is going to be a mental like, okay, I need to think, but first, knees out. And then having a target also is helpful. Awesome. And so something that I love, and this is really good for you, and I've mentioned to some of my athletes, I haven't in a while, it's called squat therapy. So we'll have a target and like you against a wall, or you can have a bar on the rig just laying on there, and it's going to be, so pretend this is a wall, okay? So I have a target that we're going to hit, so we reach full depth, and we got the wall here encouraging us to keep our chest forward so we're not hitting the wall. We'll go ahead and keep our arms up as well. We'll go down, and this really trains you to go send your butt back and not get in that muted hip habit. Beautiful. Awesome. Okay, squatting is essential for life, okay? We really need to make sure our squat is perfect. I mean, before there were chairs, what were we doing? We were just squatting constantly. Toddlers and kids, they're just always squatting. That's how they sit. So I think we've gotten a little lazy with chairs these days. So, I mean, people come in and we're not able to do a full squat. So I'm really just starting out in slow pace. That's kind of why that's why I've done some squat therapy with some of you guys, just to get used to that positioning so that we're not hurting our backs or anything like that if we're overusing muscles that we shouldn't be in the squat. Okay? Does anyone have any questions on the air squat? Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So when we're in the middle of a workout, yeah, we're not going up and down like that. So, I mean, yeah.
Part of the reason we mental demo that is because part of that muted hip, notice my hands went forward, right? I didn't have my hands up. This is showing what your back should be doing because you have a large muscular group, your lats in the back that attach from here down across your rib cage into your back into your pelvis, right? So this is fully extended. It's helping to make sure my spine stays with that natural S curve that it has. So when my hands are up overhead, there's a straight line from my shoulders through my hips throughout that entire movement. I can do the same thing here, but it's easier for my shoulders to round forward.
Right.
So she's going over the standards, right? We want to keep your chest tall. So this is a good way to help cue yourself that you have a tall chest. And it's also going to help out with the next couple movements as well.
Yeah, great question. It's true. Whenever you're, yeah.
And also helps keep them off your legs. So.
Yeah, I know. True. But no, it's good. I know. It's good for when you're practicing perfecting like an air squat. Not, you don't have to do it in a workout, but yeah, like he said, it keeps that spine nice and straight. I really like it because it keeps your chest forward as well. Because if you're going down and you're having problems with your chest, you really notice it immediately whenever your hands are, you start seeing your hands, you're like, oh, there's something wrong. So good question. What's up? Never listen to Riker, first off. No. So yeah, you'll see like professionals once you've perfected the squat, you can start adding things in like that. If there's a high rep squat, it kind of gives you momentum to get back up. So if Matt Fraser does it.
It's the same concept as why there's strict pull-ups and there's kipping pull-ups. You generate more power from your hips in a kipping pull-up to assist so your arms don't get blown up. Kind of arm cycling with your air squat. So
I go in circles.
Yeah, just a comment. So it's important to distinguish like CrossFit by nature is competitive, so we're trying to be like as fast as we can. Right? We have a leaderboard where we're like, oh, Josh got 10 minutes, so I got to do it like 9:59 and lower. Right? So we're always trying to do it as fast as humanly possible, which is fine, but we can't add that intensity in the form of like speed until the form looks good. Right? Like if you're using your arms, like I do the scoop thing. I go between my legs, I scoop up to do it. Right? Because I have a mind. But if like my back is on like rounding, my butt's way up against the stick, but I'm doing the stupid scoop kick to go fast, it's like I'm doing it. So trying to like ride that line of like what competitive CrossFit is and what really CrossFit is, which is moving well, right? Moving well with intensity.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Did you say?
Yeah. So the point of being able to do things like with higher intensity is only if you're able to meet the standards initially, right? So for all the squats we're talking about, like Michelle said, the standard is hips below your knees, and you're trying to keep a tall chest, so you have a strong spine and strong core throughout that movement. That's going to be true to the case through all the squats we do, right? Like they said, if I'm not reaching the standard of getting my hips low, there's no point in being long faster, right? So,
True.
So do the full motion and then do the full motion as fast.
Right. And that kind of goes back also to like what Riker's seminar was scaling to. It's just kind of the same concept, just going back to the basic before and perfecting that before you can move on to the next step. Okay. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and move on to the front squat. Okay, we did some with dumbbells today. That was a lot of fun. So the standards that we had for the air squat is going to apply here as well, but we are going to add the barbell. So we're going to go ahead and start in a front rack position, and we can have a loose grip with the front squat here. So fingers, it's on your fingers. It's resting on your torso. Your elbows are up high. Notice how his arms, triceps are parallel to the ground. Okay. So that is what we want. We're still shoulder width apart on our stance here, and our hands are just outside the shoulders as well. Okay, we'll go ahead and give us a couple of front squats here. So same as before, we're sending our butt back and down. We're reaching full depth, which is below 90 degrees, keeping the weight of our heels on, or our weight in our heels, and standing all the way back up into hip extension. Awesome. Keeping that bar on your torso. Perfect. Okay. So some faults that we'll have with this, these are a lot of fun because I have these faults, is going to be the faults that we had with the air squat, but also front rack positioning. So floating the bar. So it's a little bit harder because this barbell is really, it's like super light. So it's going to be floating. But imagine we got some weight on here and we're still holding that bar up into a floating position. We don't want that, okay? So just making sure that you keep your elbows nice and high here. Yep, and we're tucking, and it's making contact with our torso will be helpful on that. Um, loose grip as well will be helpful. Try not to have like a death grip, not will, help you. Just relax a little bit. Get that on that torso. And then also elbow dropping during the squat is a common mistake or fault, I guess I should say. And to me, I feel like this is really dangerous too. I don't like if this is a fault that one of my athletes have, I'm like, okay, we need to go lower in weight or we need to work on something else, because to me, we're going to fall, the barbell's just going to fall forward, which hopefully, the athlete won't get hurt, but we don't want it rolling and hitting other people. Anyways, so we don't want the bar falling off our shoulders. So ways to correct this is going to be making sure that you cue your chest and elbows staying up. Perfect. And then just making sure that you don't touch, again, here, if you want to turn like an angle here. Wait a second. Making sure I hit a target. What am I thinking of? I forgot what target I said, but okay. Just keep I'm like, there's a target that I don't want you to hit, but I forgot what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my mobility needs some work, so because this bar pretty light. But generally, we want the bar rested across your collarbones, across your shoulders. Your arms are just keeping it in place. There shouldn't be a ton of tension on your arms.
Yeah, I'll figure out what I was meaning about. I didn't clarify my note there. But yeah, just making sure that it's resting on you. That is new people coming in. That's a common common thing. And it's more of just like, oh, like, hey, actually, we want it resting on there. And it's a lot easier on you. It's more of a workout to be holding that weight up the entire time and doing a squat every time. So just keep that in mind. We're going to go ahead and move. Oh, does anyone have any questions on the front squat? Yes.
So when the weight gets a little heavy, I tend to come forward just a little and my arms drop just a little.
Yeah.
How do you fix that so that it stays?
She's like immediately.
Trash answer, right? But
no. Oh my gosh. It's good.
Like when you're one rep maxing, I'm like, once I get to my 1 rep max, and a lot of it, I will notice that sometimes it dips a little. And I do correct it and come up.
Yeah.
What's the cue so that it doesn't happen in the first place? You don't have to correct it.
Keep your chest tall, right? So if we think of your body, if the weight's pulling me this way, what muscles do I have that are going to try to prevent that? It's the long strap muscles across my back, right? And those are that, like I mentioned earlier, right? Keeping those elbows high and having a stronger core all throughout your trunk, so including your back. So I need to be tight and have tension to my back, to my the front side of my core as well, and keeping my chest up and tall. Michelle mentioned you keep your eyes forward. When I've lost front squats with cleans, I'm usually looking at the floor as well. So strength through the core and forward-facing gaze. Right? So as I'm doing this, we're here. If I start to fall here, a lot of the time I've lost stability through my core, so you really need to brace pretty hard for this. So I'm rigid as if I'm wearing a belt, but you're creating that belt all the way through your midsection.
Right.
Does that answer your question? Cool.
Is the same, or you can talk about like when we use barbells instead of or vice versa, sorry.
Yeah.
But say, is it just as long as they're resting on the shoulder? Is that right? Or
yeah, for front rack.
We had the debate about on the back and all this fun.
Yeah, for that, it's just as long as it's touching your shoulder. There's different ways to do that. So holding it up here, it's still touching your shoulder. It's just whatever's comfortable for you. But the same standards are incorporated with that. So, yeah, that's kind of a newer thing in CrossFit people have been doing. It used to be just like, rest them here or hold them here. But we see a lot of people now these days, they're kind of holding it on their back traps a little bit. But as long as that you're in a front rack position, the rep still counts as front squat. Okay? Awesome. Any other questions? Good questions. Okay, perfect. We're going to go ahead and move on to the overhead squat, my favorite. Just kidding. It's yours? Oh my gosh. You're 6. All right. Yep. I married a monster. All right. So, overhead squat. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and have it's going to be a wide grip. So this is going to be the biggest difference here. It's going to be snatch grip. So anytime I say snatch grip, that's the wide grip. And the way that you find that, you could do it a couple of ways, is, I think you might have talked about it in your seminar, but I like this method where you have the bar and then have it at your hip crease. You bend over. So if I have it here, bend over, extend your arms out, grab. That's your grip. Yeah, it's gonna be like past that for you. Another way that some people do is whenever you do your PVC pipe or your pass-throughs, bringing it in a little bit until it starts getting a little bit more difficult, and that would be your grip, overhead grip position. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and show the overhead squat. So what we look like here is we start with the bar over our heads. Okay, our arms, notice how our arms are fully extended. We don't have any bended elbows. We've got a wide grip. Our armpits are forward. Awesome. And we go into a squat. And same as our air squat here. They're reaching below 90 and then coming up. Awesome. Weight in our heels as well. Overhead squat is going to be a real test on your balance as well. So keep that in mind. Perfect. When a big thing for the overhead squat is bar positioning. So whenever he's going down, notice how the bar is, we want it in the middle of his feet. So I guess I'll come over here for you guys over here. So middle of his feet here, we've got the bar in the same spot. You're kind of at a weird angle. You want to turn over here too? Okay. Okay. Kind of hard to show, but we want the bar to be in the middle of his feet overhead. Okay, that is correct overhead positioning for that. And then of course it ends with the extension of your hips at the end. Okay, fully extending. So common faults with this, there's a lot, I have a lot of faults with this. It's going to be flexed elbows and inactive shoulders. So if we're here, we're not fully extending our elbows here, and then our shoulders just not active. They go hand in hand. So if you got one, you got the other. This is just unstable. So try to do an air or a overhead squat with that. Okay, the bar is going to want to smash your head. Okay, it's not a lot of fun. So just cueing. I mean, I would, as a coach, we're going to be looking for that. And we're like, hey, elbows, cue the elbows, and that will help you have your shoulders nice and stacked as well. And making sure that you're pressing the bar up. So just kind of make that mental decision. Another fault that we're going to have is bar moving forward, which is really, really not good. Yeah. Kind of the same thing with the front squat, though, if you guys have noticed. I mean, it just falls forward. So ways to fix that is going to be making sure that the bar is overhead in the right position to begin with. It's okay if it's, like I said, middle of feet, but also slightly back is okay. A lot better than forward. So make sure when you're starting, we're not starting forward first off. And then just remember, pull up and back. Whenever you're going down, remember that. Okay? Consciously think about it. Sweet. Okay, do we have any other questions on the overhead squat? It's just having your hands above your head for a long period of time. Yeah. So you're right, get used to it, but also rep scheme, like just knowing when, okay, I need to put the bar down for a second. You shouldn't, be doing it for like 5 minutes straight. I mean, I guess you're an animal if you can, but yeah.
It's also a shoulder mobility thing. So if we have tightness throughout our shoulders, we decrease the circulation. And when we're up over, we don't notice it until we move, and gravity helps. But when we're up over
Yeah. I'm not that good at overhead squats, so I never had problems. So I always just drop it. uh, yeah. Pinkies. I gotta be honest, I've never had that before. So I don't know. Just making sure that, you're taking breaks where you need to, shaking it off. But yeah. Okay, perfect. We're gonna go ahead, and that was our squats for today. We're gonna go ahead and move to shoulder presses, and we're gonna run through these pretty quickly because they're generally pretty easy. So we've got the shoulder press. So this is gonna be a strict press, otherwise known as strict press. We're gonna start in the front rack position. Again, our elbows will be up, but they don't need to be as high as before. You can come in the middle here. I feel like you're way over there. Cool. Awesome. But we don't want them being completely like down here, okay? So go ahead and get ready here. We're going to go ahead and our feet are going to be hip stance. Well, it could be whatever's comfortable for you, but for this, you can be a little bit more narrow on your stance. So shoulder to hip. Perfect. Hands are outside the shoulders again, and this time we're going to have a full grip. So no loose fingers like we had with the front squat. We're in a full grip because we're going to be having that overhead. Our bar is starting by resting on our torso, and our heels are down and extended. Okay, this is our starting position. He's going to go ahead and move the bar up with our shoulders reaching full extension. Notice how he pops his head back so the bar can keep that straight movement, our bar path. Cool. I'm going to do some other side here. Notice the neutral spine, the straight path of the bar. And we've got correct overhead positioning, just kind of like what we went over before. Awesome. Okay, so some faults that we have are going to be overextension of the spine and the ribs. So notice how as he goes out, that his butt is out and his rib cage is forward. Okay, perfect. So ways to correct this is going to be to tighten the abdominals and think rib cage pull down. Okay. And that's going to how we're going to do that. And sometimes a wider grip will be helpful. Anything overhead, if you're having troubles getting it there, having a little bit of a wider grip will make it a little bit easier until you've got a little bit more mobility and feel more comfortable with the movement. Okay. Finishing with the bar in front is also another fault that we have. Same kind of with the overhead squat, but we're finishing with it there. We don't want that. That is a no rep. Okay. So just make sure that we are moving. So notice again, as he's going up, he's tucking his chin to keep that bar nice and close in that straight path. We don't want any arcing. That is another fault that we have. People won't move their face, so they'll just go around. That's a lot more work, I feel like, too.
You know when you accidentally turn your front-facing camera on, like that face that's looking back at you? It's kind of what you're wanting to create here.
Yeah, it's true.
Here, the bar goes straight up, and then push it back. Right?
It's not going to be pretty, but it'll be safer. Yeah. Okay, another fault that we're going to have is bent elbows on this as well. So yeah, that's a no rep. Perfect. That was front too. Okay, so make sure you extend those elbows. So the rep starts here and then it ends with the extension of your elbows. That is one rep. Okay.
So when you're doing like 5 reps, you need to be, you like have to come back to here. Or is it okay if you're like real to keep that tension?
You have to touch the torso. Yes.
So she brought up a really good question. When I'm doing a 5 rep here, do I have to touch my chest? And where you're going to lose tension. Touch your chest without losing tension. Does that make sense? So when I come on down, I'm not going to reset and rest, but I'm going to, as lightly as I can, touch my chest and keep moving. Right? For standard sake, it starts on the shoulder, starts on the chest, ends with extended overhead.
Right. It's kind of like when you're benching. Like you're not going to rest when you touch, but you're touching still. Okay. So just a little bit of a tactile touch there. Yeah.
I know. You're down to 55 pounds.
No, they won't. No, it's a great question. Yeah, so each rep you have to come down, and like you said, yeah, you're not resting, so you don't touch and then okay, and then go again. It's like you're just tap, tap every time. Okay?
So what are the benefits and differences between a barbell press and a dumbbell press?
Dumbbell press.
Dumbbell press feels better on my shoulders, and I can do a little weight.
Right. This is a question for Josh.
It's gonna be a mobility and stability thing. Because obviously you've got the strength for it if you're doing more with dumbbells. Dumbbells are generally harder because
I feel like they're easy.
So it's gonna be a mobility thing. Because there's nowhere for this bar to go. Like if one side's higher than the other, you're limited by your ability to swing, right? Whereas the dumbbell, you can press both arms, and one arm has to go out a little more of a different angle than one's going to, and it's fine because the barbell is restricted to whatever you can do at a given spot. So there's benefits to both. Generally, the bar is considered more stable, but you have more leeway one way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah, Clint's just terrible at them. I'm just kidding. No, yeah, just working on mobility outside of class to be beneficial. Help you get
They're
to.
gonna be different.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
It's gonna start from the core thing, right? So Michelle was saying, when I'm doing this one, and we've all probably felt that where our back gets real tight and our belly's like really extended. I think guts and butts, right? So tighten up your guts and squeeze your butts, right? So what that does, it changes this weird S-looking position I've made and straightens me up. So tight belly, squeeze my butt, squeeze my quads as well. So I'm a straight line throughout that whole thing. And it changes that motion. It fixes at my hips, and it braces that core all through my midsection as well as in my pelvis. Right? So there's less unneeded dispersion of that energy from you trying to press through the floor. Okay.
Great questions. Cool. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to the push press. So same as before, the rep is going to start at the torso, or resting on the bar resting on the torso, elbows up, and ending with the extension. But this time we get a little bit of help here. We get a slight bend at the hips and our legs, and then when they extend, we're going to press our arms above the head. Okay, so we'll flex those knees and those hips, and then as we extend them, we are pushing a bar above head. Okay, that is called our push press, and generally makes it a little bit easier to get, or you can get more weight with that because you get the momentum of your hips and knees extending to help you. So common mistakes that we have with this, we want it to be a fluid motion. So we don't want it to be two separate ones. Kind of like when I go over thrusters, same thing. We don't want to go into a squat, pause, and then do a press. So show us putting it into two movements. Okay. See how he's pausing. So it's basically a little dip and then a strict press at that point. Okay. So just making sure as you are extending, you don't want to, another common fault we have is we're pushing the bar above head before we fully extended our knees and our hips. So show us that. Be a little bit more dramatic maybe. Awesome. So notice how he finishes extending those knees and those hips whenever he already has the bar above head, and we don't want that. Okay, so just trying to think whenever you're doing it, as soon as you feel those extend, then you're like, okay, I can start going. Another way that you can practice this is having someone above our head here. I'm going to put my hand here because he's in our loading position, ready to go. And I don't want him to move the bar above head. I don't want him to start moving it above his head until he has hit my hand. So go ahead and start. Perfect. Just a little tactile cue there. So that is always helpful, just so you know if you're doing that correctly, making that one fluid motion. Sweet. Perfect. Making sure that you keep your heels on the ground until the hips and legs are extended. Sometimes you'll see a little bit of a little bit of a jump is acceptable. You don't want to be jumping off the ground by any means, but go ahead and maybe show him that a little bit. See how his heels come off. That is okay, but only after he has fully extended our knees and our hips can he do that. Okay? I'm sure people have tried it before. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so common faults with this is going to be common faults are going to be chest falling whenever you dip. So kind of same as before. We're going here and then we're going up. So just make sure that you hold, again, just break it down. Hold at the dip and then see where you're at. We're like, oh crap, I'm already forward. Okay, get back there and then start the rest of your rep or finish your rep. Or having a shorter dip. This is kind of, I don't know if it's controversial. And you guys can chime in, but having the dip not be so drastic is important. When I first started, and I still do this sometimes, I think, I would be like all the way here and then I'd go up. We don't want a full on like almost squat here. We want just a slight flexion of those joints to give, and it still gives you momentum because I would always think, I'm like, well, the more that I have an angle here, the more that I'm going to be able to get even more momentum to get more weight up. But that's not necessarily true. You can still be very powerful with a short angle or a dip. Muted hips, again, can be a thing for this as well. Just make sure that you're pushing your hips back whenever you're making that dip. And also having a PVC right here, making sure that you're not moving forward, not touching that. Okay, another fault we'll have is pressing too early. Like I said, we start pressing before we fully extended the knees. We've already went over that. So we're good to go there. Perfect. Any questions on the push press? Yes. Yeah, so same with the air when it gets heavier. Yes. So same thing with what the fault with our air squats is going to be, making sure that you remember spreading the ground with your feet. And what else did we say about that?
So what that does, the band makes you want to push your knees in, so you have to like physically push against something the whole time. So then when you take it off, you're already cued, like your muscles are already thinking like, when I dip, I need to press out, right? So that may not have answered this question. When he dips, he has a tendency to bring our knees in, right? So that's just inactivation of the muscles that abduct your hips. So while he's doing that, actively pressing those knees out and driving forward.
Yep. And I think that is it for the push press. We should push press. Okay, now we're going to go to the push jerk. Okay, so we've got the push jerk. So it's going to be everything we did before, but now we are going to go we're going to go under the bar at the end and then finish with the extension. So go ahead and give us a couple of push jerks. Awesome. Okay. So same as before, we're going to be, when we extend our hips and our knees, we're going to start moving that bar up, but we're dropping under the bar and catching above head in a little bit of a squat here, and then we're standing it up. That is when your rep ends. Okay, so if we're not totally comfortable with that, then we can do a little bit of progression. So without the bar, just do a jump and then stay there for a second. And then stand it up. Perfect. And then basically you just keep adding more. Yep. We're in a front squat, jump, and up. Okay. And then slowly you'll do PVC, light bar, barbell, and then you can start adding some weight.
So I didn't realize your legs were supposed to get wider.
Not by much.
Not by very much at all.
Just for stability? Or?
Yes, exactly. Yep.
You're starting from where, like, you would do so my feet are just under my hips, where I would be like doing a vertical jump from, so I'm getting the most vertical power possible. And then when I'm catching, essentially I'm doing a squat. Right? So when I receive, I need to be in my squat position. So if your feet move out a little bit, is okay. What I don't want to see is,
all the way out.
one, you're not going to get low enough.
Yeah.
One leg tends to, is that bad?
Yeah, you can do that leg. So I recommend like just starting a little wider, so you're in that squat position already, so it doesn't have to move. So and then just try to keep your feet screwed into the floor. So I'm here, but I'm still doing that where I cheat underneath the bar at the top of that.
Yeah. You don't always have to you don't have to jump off of the ground necessarily, but it is helpful. Yeah, the question was if you can widen your stance a little bit, and that is good and fine, but you can't be going all the way out or anything, ending in a huge sumo stance. Yeah. So yeah, if I know I'm going to go, if I jump a little bit higher or a little bit wider or end a little bit wider, then I always start a little bit more narrow so that it's not too wide. Okay. So some faults that we'll have is going to be lack of hip extension. Okay. Yep. Which really, that's where your momentum's at. So we just want to make sure, yep, kind of cueing, jump higher. Think jump higher. Okay. Be explosive and be dramatic with that. That's where your power is coming from. We want that hip to snap. Thinking also squeeze those glutes and quads before you press under the bar. So use butt cheek screwing. Okay, awesome. And then you can go under the bar. Awesome. Okay, inactive overhead positions, another fault that we'll have whenever you receive the bar. So this is actually really common. I see this a lot in the CrossFit world, is when we catch the bar, our elbows are bent, and then we straighten our elbows. So do it again. Okay. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's kind of awkward to do, but you're here, and then when you go up, you hear sometimes people straighten it first and then they come up, or they're bent and then they come up and then they straighten it. Either way, that's not that is a fault. So ways to correct that is going to be just having your coach remind you, okay, elbows nice and straight, elbows stacked, and again going back to the progression of the jump and just making sure your elbows straight every time and slowly adding that weight on. Another fault we'll have is lowering the bar before full extension. This is tricky and very fun to judge. I love no-repping people when they do this. Absolutely love it. My favorite. So I am psychotic. Yes, I do this, Josh, every time. Olympic lifters do this all the time, which is acceptable for their practicing. It's normal for them when you're practicing. Makes sense. They got a lot of weight overhead. They're not going to fully extend every rep they do. Obviously, whenever they compete, they have to. But what they do, you're here and you come up, and when you come up, you're already coming down before you fully extend that. Okay? You guys see that? Ooh, makes me so excited. Let me turn and show them. I love this. It's so fun. Yep. Okay, we're no-repping the heck out of that because he's coming up and he's not even extending. He's already coming down. He's not doing the full rep. He's not feeling all the pain that all the other athletes are doing. Okay, no rep. And then they look at you like, what? I'm like, no rep. Okay, awesome. So that's going to be another. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the difference between Char's question is kind of what's the difference between the push jerk and the push press, the two movements we've done last. The push press, you only ever extend, right? So you get some help from your legs, and you're only extending. The push jerk, I dip, I extend, and I dip again. So you cheat underneath bar, but then I have to extend all the way up before that bar comes down, and the shell's going to come into your lunge, right?
Basically. No, you guys.
All the way up and down.
Yeah.
You come around and tell it's a no.
Well, I don't do that with the Olympic lifters. They literally will eat me. Only in competition. But yeah, that is a good question. So I try to reiterate that every time.
Again, same concept as the air squats earlier. There's no point in doing half the reps really fast, right? So we want to make sure we're doing it right, and then we can speed things up. So that's the trap we fall into. If we have a bunch of push presses in a workout, and I extend, and I'm not coming up all the way before I start bringing it down, right? So we just want to make sure we do those correctly.
Right. Okay. And those are our jerks. So our presses. So we start out with the harder one, and then it got easier. So the more, you got a dip the second time, which made it easier to go overhead, and then you got 2 dips the second or the third time, which means you should be able to put a little bit more weight over bar with that. Okay. Yeah.
So when I do my third, you're like here, and then you're like way farther down than me. I'm only ever
Yeah.
Once it gets heavier.
I don't go as deep. Are you supposed to?
No.
Once it gets heavier, you'll be able to do more. The point of the dip is to drive the barbell up as high as it goes, and then you cheat underneath it. If you watch like people in the Olympics who push their squat here, they don't. The bar always going to go up so high. So that's push jerk still, right? Because I extended and I dipped underneath the bar.
That's what I do.
That's what most of us do.
Yeah.
So I'm not. If I have like my 50% on the bar, I'm not.
Yeah. It just depends on weight.
Like, he's going so low and he's
I know. This is a lot of weight for him. So yeah. Yeah. No, good question. The heavier it gets, the more you'll dip. Or you'll. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It gives you more of a chance for sure. That's why. Exactly. Yeah. That's what it. So what? Yes. Oh yeah. 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 That counts. As long as you have. Nice. Yeah, exactly. That's what that dip does. Exactly.
So this is the continuum of the presses as well as the squats. It's becoming, well, not so much the squats, but the presses starts with the strength bias movement where it's all strength. How much force can your muscles just produce versus the continuation into more of a power output movement. How much power can you get your body to create vertically, and then strength stand it up, right? So.
Yes. Awesome. Great question. Okay, so we'll go ahead and finish with the standards part here with the deadlift.
Okay.
Sam's favorite. Okay, so I don't like deadlift. Okay, you can go ahead and come out here. Yeah, I know, it's okay. So we'll go ahead and start hip to shoulder with a stance for our feet here, whatever's comfortable for you, but we don't want to be wider than our shoulder. Then we're going to go ahead and have our hands outside of our hips and a grip on that. Debatable on what grip you want for the deadlift. I like switch. You could do overhand. I don't recommend underhand, but can you do that? Okay, I was like, okay, I know, I'm like, I feel like your elbows would just be like, anyways, yeah, yes. Anyways, so whatever's comfortable for you. Hook, grip, even for all your jerks too, or your presses, I think. I like press. Huh? Curl your deadlift. Nice. Yes. Yes.
Something on this, but it feels so much better than this. Like your lat is kind of in the way on this side, so you have to pull back to make sure you spin as you come up.
Yeah.
Do what you want, but
I do. I still do it. Listen.
If you do that though, like you're kind of like it's kind of redundant, right? Because this is already stopping the motor spin, right? So
Yes,
That's why.
that is it.
I heard perfect.
And
That's the one.
you'll see anytime I am on the barbell, I am, unless it's like front squats or whatever, I am doing hook grip, because even if you don't need it, because you're training yourself to do it. Okay. Definitely want you guys starting to do a hook grip. Yes, it hurts at first. Yes, you develop calluses. Yes, they help out in the end. And yes, as it gets heavier, it will still hurt. Yes.
Brings the hook grip. Hook grip. For those that may not know, grab the bar with your thumbs and then grab your thumbs with your fingers. Right? So what that does, instead of your thumb trying to lock down the 4 fingers, it's 4 fingers trying to lock in your thumb. So it just holds off.
And you can take your thumb.
Yep, take your thumb.
Yeah, you could do that. It hurts. It does hurt, but it helps out a lot. So yeah, I was the biggest complainer about that. I absolutely refuse to do that as well, kind of like the Echo bike. But eventually I started doing it, and then I got past the pain, and it was just super helpful. Now it's just a habit. So I think it's awesome. I would always use my hands are super small, and I'm like, okay, my hands are just too small. I can't do it. Even on the bar, on the rig, I'm like, I have small hands. I'm like exempt from this. But you are not. I have really small hands, and I can do it. Okay, so just hang in there. Okay, sweet. So we're at the deadlift here. We'll go back to our deadlift. Okay, cool. So a bar is in contact with our shins. So obviously they don't want to be scraping, but we definitely don't want the bar all the way out here, okay? So just to be dramatic, our bar is in contact with our shins, and our arms are straight, okay? They are not bent. Our shoulders are slightly over the bar, slightly, and our hips and shoulders should rise together till past the knee, and then we will fully extend, yes, like that. Perfect. You'll give another one on the other side. I have a good view here. Okay, perfect. So, deadlifting. Okay, so I have a really bad habit because I love Olympic lifting. So, when I get set up, yeah, that's what I do. Okay, but with the deadlift, yeah, which I guess is great. I mean, you got a great clean start there. Okay, we want our butt a little bit up here, and then our shoulders a little bit above the or past the bar, like I had said. Some faults that we have is going to be a curved spine, as you guys see. What do we call it? The alley cat or something like that? Huh? Pooping dog. Nice. Okay. So that is not what we want. You look like a hunchback from Notre Dame when you did that. Another fault that we're going to be having is weight on our toes and our hips. Weight on our toes. So make sure you just pull your hips back instead, and that will help that out. Shoulders behind the bar is another fault that we'll have. Too far behind the bar, it's just kind of awkward.
You get like the people who are ramping it up their legs.
There's
they just throw their torso back, and that's not doing anything.
Yeah. You kind of
shoulders over the bar the whole time.
Yep. Then hips are too high is another fault. Starting with hips too high. Notice how, yes.
That's an RDL. It's an accessory to a normal deadlift. Don't do your max with an RDL.
Yeah, it is a lift, but not a deadlift. Okay. And then another is going to be hips that aren't moving back when you descend. Sorry, go do a descending.
Oh, so coming down.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, hips don't move back when you descend. Okay. Okay, that just looks really awkward. So just make sure you push your hips back and bend your knees once they're past the knees.
Same concept as what we were saying about the jerk and with everything, all the other vertical movements. We just want the bar to go in a straight line. This is different variations of the bar going in a straight line. If I'm bending my knees, look at like all crap, the bar has to change on that x-axis. We don't want it to do any of that. Taking any kind of physics course, just grab any kind of weight, hold it out in front of you for a while, and feel way heavier than it actually is. Right? Same kind of thing with the deadlift. If I'm having to pull it away from here, it's going to be a lot heavier. So you can press out here is a lot heavier than the press right here. Okay. More prone to injury, doing more weight.
Yeah.
You ought to.
Yep. So that's Phil. Do you have anything else to say about that?
Yeah, what questions do you guys have about the deadlifts? We did deadlifts yesterday, so they're fresh on your minds.
I'm absolutely terrified of back injuries with the deadlift, which is another reason why I feel like I overcompensate I sit down all the way. I don't want people doing like good mornings with their deadlift. So I'm terrified about that. I harp on it a lot.
Do you guys actually mean like good morning with the deadlift? A good morning is like where the bar's on your back, and I send my butt back, and it's a hamstring exercise. It's a really good hamstring exercise.
And lower back.
And lower back, like that whole posterior chain. When I do a deadlift, it's when your butt extends and then you do this. So you have a really good starting position. You start to pull on the bar, and my butt comes up, and then my torso comes up. That hip to shoulder angle needs to be consistent until you're good, right? So the first 8 inches off the floor, my hips, however high my hips raise, my shoulders raise the same. And that's really important to protect your back. Your spine, so from your hips to the top of my head needs to be locked in throughout the shoulder. Wherever I start, I could tape this PVC pipe to across my body, across my spine, and it doesn't bend against PVC. Right? That's what she's saying about being worried about your spine. So if I do this, all this weight is now directly going through my mid-back.
Ooh.
Right?
This is scary.
So I don't want to do that because then it's just your vertebrae pulling it out, right? So lock that in. Hips and shoulders rise at the same time, extending my hips, right? But I still have that neutral position for my spine.
Right. Yes, thank you. It's I feel like I don't know what you guys think. I feel like that's the most common injury with the deadlift. 100% people are like, oh, my back is literally destroyed. Well, we didn't really utilize exactly what we were trying to do with that lift, which is mostly going to be our hammies and our glutes. But it is normal. Sometimes we will have a little bit of back pain, but obviously not like injury wise. It is normal to have a little bit of that because you're still using, like sore. Yeah. So being able to differentiate that.
Strong enough to maintain that back. So it's a lot of people like at the beginning, they're like, oh, I can lift it or whatever, and they can lift it, but their back is all like wrong or whatever. So why we try as a coaching team to be like, hey, if you're new, I don't care if it feels like 2 months, we shouldn't be doing that in these moves right now because your core is not strong enough. We talk about core extremity a lot, which is like, it kind of starts in the core that has to be tight there, and that's going to be like the foundation.
Right. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so that's kind of it for my standards portion of that. I'm just going to go over a little bit of judging, but before I do close out with the standards, it's super important that we master the basics of this, okay? So really, I like starting with the air squat. Once you've got that mastered, go ahead and move on from there. You should not be adding weight if we cannot even do the movement without any weight, if that makes sense. So I have a hard time telling people no. I do tell people no all the time, but people add a little bit more weight and they're like, oh yeah, I could do this. And I'm like, hey, well, let's see a rep. And then, it's a little iffy. And I'm like, well, I think it'd be beneficial if we take some weight off because the last one you did with less weight was better movement or better standards there. And so kind of cueing that, make sure that, if you're going to add a little bit of weight, well, make sure that your form stays with that. That is super crucial.
You are strong enough to do this, but
and that
was really helped me because I feel like it.
No, and it's true because, and like Dave said, people come in here and they can do I believe you, you really can pull that, you can move that weight from the ground up, you can do that. but how you do it is a little bit different. So like you're strong enough to do that, but let's go ahead and, let's tackle the form down and then we can get to that point. So don't feel this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Form's great, and it's hard. It's an ego thing for me as well. When you get into a workout, CrossFit workout, we're not talking about standards anymore. We're just like, okay, we got to get these reps done. So really being able to tell yourself like, hey, I need to work on my form. Like I'm going to do a little bit less weight, or I'm going to do air squats instead, so I can tackle that. And you still get a good workout, but we're doing it correctly. So don't feel discouraged if the coaches are always like, like you're doing like what you want to do, and they're like, actually, let's do something else. Like it's for your own good, and we're just looking out for you guys. We don't want you to get hurt, but we also want you to get better, and that is the only way we can get better, is just kind of scaling down if we need to. Okay, so that's it for our standards. For the judging, just kind of, I don't know how in depth you want me to get. But for judging, so CrossFit Open's coming up. Our competition's coming up next weekend. Yes, it's going to be a lot of fun. Super low key. I know a lot of us. You're doing it. You guys are doing it. I know a lot of us haven't done. Who here has done a CrossFit competition? Okay. Huh? Has done a CrossFit competition. Okay, you don't count. So at CrossFit competitions, there are judges, and the responsibility of the judge is to make sure that the athlete is doing the correct movements, and I guess to make sure that everyone's on the same level. Okay, that it's fair, that no one's getting away with anything, and that's why we went over standards today. So I was showing you like a squat needs to be below 90 degrees and it needs to end with a full hip extension. And that is the rep. If we have someone doing reps like this, they're in the middle of a workout and okay, none of those count. Okay. And then the person next to them is doing everything they need to. Well, that's just not fair. So that is why we have judges, to level the playing field, make sure everyone is being fair. And before every competition, there's a head judge, and the judge, they go over the standards with the athletes so they know before they go out, and also with the other judges, making sure that this is what we're looking at for this workout. Like we're making sure this and this is happening. Okay. If they're not, it's a no rep. So that's kind of how judging works. I really, really like judging. I've done, I judge a lot. Like I said, I'm really picky with my class, but I've done a couple, I think I've judged a couple of times. The biggest one I've done was the Iron Games in St. George, and that was a lot of fun. It's a pretty big competition. You get the whole, you get the scorecard and you got times. You have to make sure that the athlete, you are directing the athlete, is basically what's happening. Okay. So, just making sure that is how it works. It also helps refine your understanding. I think, okay, I came back a different person after Iron Games, because I was like, okay, you've really got to be strict on the movements you're doing and make sure you're hitting all your the standards for the movements. Okay. Because especially, maybe you're not training for a competition, that's totally fine. But if you are, you're not going to cheat reps when training and then go to a competition, and then it's going to be hard to hit the standard because you haven't been training that. Okay. So this helps refine your understanding. I came back and I'm now just a Nazi on freaking hitting everything true RX. If you're going to do that, it improves delivery as well of the movement, and it helps communication with the coach. It holds you accountable as well. So, makes you a better athlete. So judging is a lot of fun. I really like it. So whenever we do the competition, we're going to have probably have to have help with judging. And that's kind of why we wanted to go over a little bit of that. Yeah, I get a couple of people to judge. Nope, that's not how it works. You're competing. When your heat's not going, you're judging. Anyways, so whenever we do that, I can go over the standards when we go over all of the workouts, what we're going to be looking for. But just, I don't know how in depth you want me to get with judging. Okay. Okay. So, anyways, so for example, if you're judging, what's the workout? 7 Minutes in Heaven. We're doing Echo Bike and, oh crap, what are we doing? I know, I'm like, gosh dang it. I was about to say like power snatches or something. Okay, so an air squat. So the judge is going to be accountable for making sure the athlete is doing the correct movement and also counting their reps for them. So they have 7 minutes. Someone's going to be on the air bike, so I'm going to be judging the air squats because it's making sure that you're hitting full depth on the air squat and hitting full extension on the air squat is going to be the rep. If we're not, it's a no rep. But that one's kind of easy to judge because really all it is just the max calorie on the bike. And so writing down that score afterwards and then turning it in, that is your responsibility, not the athletes, okay, as a judge. Directing them so they know where they need to go as well. Okay, we've got double unders here, and then we need to go into a lunge. Okay, you're counting double unders and done. All right, lunge. Okay, start. And then they're going. So kind of cueing them where they're going to be at. But the athlete coming into the competition should already know what the movements they are doing are and what the standards for the movements are. So just keep that in mind. You'll be counting reps for them, and you'll be getting times for them. If it's a timed workout, you look at the clock when they pass the finish line, time, okay, write down their time, turn it in. Yes.
So will every partnership have a judge?
Yes. Yep. So in our competition, that's how it works. In every competition, if it's a partner comp, they get one judge, making sure that the two are doing. It's harder to judge the.
If there's two people cutting, a lot of times they'll have somebody else watching, like at least like a head judge monitoring.
The head judge is walking around while that's happening. At the Iron Games, they had teams of 3, and it was really fun to judge. I had to look at 3 people at the same time. But, you're kind of just taking a knee, watching, doing everything, and then there's a head judge coming around, and you're just focusing. And if they're like tap on their shoulder, like, hey, he needs to reach full depth, and then I'm like, okay, and then give them one warning. If not, it's a no rep. So, I guess I'll end with this. It's not, as a judge, it is not your responsibility to motivate, coach, and what was the other one? Maybe it's just those 2. You're not supposed to be coaching the athlete, okay? You're not sitting there like, hey, keep your chest forward. All right, keep those elbows up. You've got it. Okay. Yeah, good work. You're doing so good. Awesome. Okay, awesome. That is not your job, okay? It's encouraging, and I mean, for our small competition, it's fine. But our main job is going to be making sure that those reps are to full standard, and that you're calling it if there is not, you're saying no rep, okay? And making sure it's loud and clear to them. And also, some athletes won't count, and they'll just wait until you say to go. So just making sure that you're clear. Okay, you're done. Let's go. Or sometimes they do, and they think they're done. So that has happened a lot. Well, they'll drop their jump ropes, and they're like, no, you got 10 more. And then they're like, what? And then they come back and do it again. So just being loud and clear with them. I feel like for the competition, once we've released all our workouts, I will go over with you guys as judges what we need to be looking at, so then you know what you need to do. So we don't have to do that right now. But before the competition, I'll have a little roundup and like, hey, for this workout, you're going to be, standing here so you can see we're going to be looking at this and this, and that counts as the rep. And at the end, I need this score. So I think it'd be better just the day of, so we can go over that. That's just kind of me ranting. I really like judging. Huh? Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It really is. And you know what? Judges do a lot more than the athletes do. Because at the Iron Games, I was constantly busy. I thought we would get to hang out more, but he was more just.
That was a different scenario.
Was it?
Yeah, you guys were like half staff.
Okay, well, I don't know. Anyways, so does anyone have any questions on anything today? I know I kind of ranted. a little bit.
One thing I will say, if I can jump in, so why are we going to standards and things? Like, if my goal is not to compete, then why do I care about this? I just want to show up to the 5 or the 6 or the 8:30, and I want to get a workout in, I want to get sweaty, and I want to go home. Right? Improving like the quality of your movement is going to improve how efficiently you can exercise. So you're gonna get a better workout in your hour here if you do all the movements correctly, and it's going to protect you from injury. So if I'm somebody and I don't want to reach full squats or I don't want to do any of that stuff, one, you got to communicate with your coach and find a more effective option for you. But the reason we have these standards isn't just to be Nazis, it's to protect the athlete and it's to make your quality of exercise more efficient and just better overall. Does that make sense?
Yes. No, just saying.
I don't get any joy from like no repping somebody. I can't speak for Michelle, but like
I love it.
but
My favorite.
It's for the quality of the athlete. So in classes,
I'm like,
workouts,
please
as well as in
don't do it.
competition.
Yeah. And if you see me in the gym and I'm not doing something up standard, no rep me. Call me out. I want it. I really do.
Somebody else.
Yeah. Please.
Some of you guys gotta go off that. Yeah, if you never want to compete, which is fine. You should not compete in CrossFit like low comps where you don't want to. Like, just don't. But
Do it.
I'm not saying that you can't, because I believe all of you can get to a point where you do that. And it's really about having fun. But yeah, remember, like, if you're putting yourself in the sugar water, like, you are at least somewhat by definition competing against other people that are on there. Okay, so if you're putting RS, if you're scaling, I can tell that's what you're scaling, right? Because it's all goes into the same thing where it's like, well, this person scaled this way, this person scaled that way, so it doesn't really matter, right? There's no standard with scaling, right? But if you're going to put in there that you RX a workout, let's say high experiments, but you know that for at least half of those you were going to depth, right? Did you really RX the workout if you only did basically like, half reps essentially? And it's one of those things where I love the whiteboard because you do have that whole competitive nature and that pushes a lot of people. But at the same time, it can also push people to be like, well, I'm going to like go super fast and cut some things and not do it the way I should do it so I can get my name at the top, right? So remember that the only person that you are taking away from is yourself when you decide to not go on the standard and be like, yeah, I beat that guy. Yeah, screw him. Meanwhile, like
Screw
5
him.
years later, you're not going to remember some stupid thing on the whiteboard. And if you did, you might be so bad. So just consider, like, what is the real point, right? Are you trying to, like, just go fast and put a score on the board that's going to make you feel good about yourself? Or are you going to do the standard correctly, get better, so that eventually that person you're trying to beat, maybe you'll be able to beat them the right way? And how much better is that going to feel? Because you have the standard the whole time. So.
Yeah. All good things. All good things to think about. It's kind of funny because, like I said, this kind of, I like training. Like I judge myself a lot because then it's when I compete, I will be, I don't have to worry about making sure that I'm doing a full movement. Like the judge shouldn't have to worry about it. And I notice that when I judge, I can really tell when people are training correct movements because I don't have to do a lot. I'm like, I have no question. It is great when there's absolutely no question that this is full depth. When when they're riding the line, you're like, okay, when they're training, I wonder, are they doing that every time? And this is the first time they're like, oh crap, okay, now I have to actually try hitting that full depth. So I can really tell the difference with that. And of course, in competition, sometimes, like we talked with standards, and when you judge, we talked about the air squat not coming like down here, but some people still do that, but they'll reach full depth and they'll still come up to a hip extension. You're not correcting their form there. So technically it still counts as a rep because they hit the standard up that we set of full depth and hip extension, but it looks really ugly. So you kind of just, you notice it. Yeah, you notice it and pick your battles with yourself on what you want to improve, and it will really show. I love competing, and I think everyone can do it. It's honestly, like they said, it's just fun. It's just a lot of fun. I mean, I'm not going to the CrossFit Games, but like it's fun to get together, especially because most of the time you do it with other people. We get together and just go have a competition together, represent the gym, cheer each other on. It is so much fun. Get to know other gyms, and then afterwards go eat a ton of food together at Takano's and just have a fun time. They're awesome. So don't ever think you can't do it because I know you guys can. I know it. There's a competition out there that you can do. So let us know if you're interested. We can look out for competitions for you. We'll keep you posted on it. But yeah, there are. There's one in. So yeah, there are. There's one in Boise. When is it? I don't know. Festivus. That's a very good beginner one.
Yeah, that's the thing. So most competition will have some divisions. Will have an RX division, and they usually have sometimes intermediate, which is between scale and RX.
Mhm.
But then most times they'll have actual scale.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that we have every single movement, but it's all the scale versions of the stuff. So you wouldn't have pull-ups on the scale division.
Like ring rows or something. Yeah. So yeah, there's always a scaled option, and they always tell you before, maybe not every workout, but they'll say for the scaled, they give you a list of things like these are the movements that we will do. So then beforehand, oh, like I can do those, like I can do scaled. But yeah, as for like a true beginner competition, the only one I know of is Festivus, and they're like straight up like beginner. But scaled should be pretty good. Yeah, it is a lot of fun. Yeah. Okay, cool. Any other questions, comments? Awesome. Well, thanks for coming, guys.